Welcome to the Recovered Life Show. You're tuned in to a new episode of Recovery This Week with your hosts, Damon Frank and Shauna McKenna-Vick.
Welcome to Recovery This Week. I'm Damon Frank.
And I'm Shauna McKenna-Vick, and we're delighted that you are here and joining us this week.
Oh, I am so excited, Shauna. I've been looking forward all week to talk with you. A lot going on. It's the holidays. Can you believe it? We're here. We're here. How did we get here? How did we get here?
This year flew by. I seem to, as I get older, the days and weeks and months pass so quickly.
It does. And I wanted to give a quick shout out here because I know we've got some people listening to us on TikTok, our really great TikTok community, which we're going to tell you more about that coming up here. But we've got a good episode for you with Recovery This Week. You know, just to set the stage here for those of you who have not heard the Recovered Life TV Recovery This Week, it's really Shauna and I talking about our own sobriety. Shauna works in the recovery thing. Business. We talk about like what's going on with us and, what's going on in the whole recovery scene. And right now, I got to tell you, a lot of people talking about stress, Shauna. I mean, people are freaking out because of the holidays.
It's true. It seems that a lot of people are stressed out about so many different things, anticipating family holidays. And it's not just people in recovery or people trying to get sober. They're just generally, maybe because it was an election year, maybe because, inflation, high prices, all sorts of things. People are definitely seem to be a little more stressed as opposed to excited about the holidays. Mm-hmm. And, it's really important to reframe that stressor to find a way to deal with that stress so you can enjoy the holidays, and have it be a positive experience. We were just talking before we actually launched the show, that holidays suck. Well, or can suck for someone in early recovery. Well, if we reframe it, that it's just an area of growth for someone in recovery, then it doesn't have that negative connotation. We have to be really careful about how we speak to ourselves, because we train our brain to go along that way. And if we're thinking, oh, the holidays are going to suck and all this, then we're feeding all that negativity into our own subconscious. And I just love to always find a way to reframe, and it doesn't have to be positive. You can even reframe just to a neutral.
Yeah, well, we talk a lot about on Recovered Life about asking different questions. If we're constantly saying what's going wrong here, this, what's wrong with me? How come it never works out? What happens is you just get more of that back. You just get more, it's not working out back. It's like our gratitude episode we did a few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm. When you put things out into the universe. I was listening to a manifesting law of attraction meditation this morning, or a course, just listening to that. And it's whatever you put out in the world is what you'll gain back. So if you want to attract good things in, that's the premise, right?
Yeah.
You want to put out good things. So it's really important as we approach the holidays to reframe our thinking if we want to have a positive experience.
Yeah, and this whole rewriting of it, I think you said something though that was very interesting. I don't know if you're experiencing stress right now. I mean, we both have families. It is tough sometimes. It is. I just started to get stressed out about gifts, and we're not doing a ton of gift exchanges this year. I know people, money is tight right now.
It is
for a lot of people. And also, we found that a lot of the times we're just re-gifting the same $50 or $40 gift card back and forth to each other. We were talking about that. And it's like,
we talked about that last week. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So like we're getting the kids stuff and all that, we're doing that, but like we've kind of slowed down on the pressure of having to buy everything for everyone. It just, it freaks people. It is a lot of stress to come up with the money every year. And the whole expectation of the financial
and the ideas, right? Like I went to get my hair done this morning. We've already covered that. And what I do is I bake this Irish shortbread, and I bake tons of it. I bake a batch every single day, and I buy the containers, and that's what I give to people. Like I gave to my hairstylist this morning instead of buying her a gift. What can I in the past, I might have bought something that was $20, $30, $40 for service people and stuff. And honestly, I know when I receive gifts that I don't necessarily want, they can collect dust. I mean, I don't want to
Yes.
go down that path, but
Yes.
it's not necessary. According to me, Shauna McKenna Bick says it's not necessary to buy gifts for every single person in your path.
No. And it's very, very tough because when you're trying to buy gifts for everybody, you don't know what to get, the financial side. I have to show you this TikTok. I
Okay.
found this TikTok and I'm going
I
to
love when
narrate
you
it
do this. Okay.
for people. I'm going to narrate it because I have to tell you, it's like, it's so what's going on in the holidays for most people. And for those of you guys listening on the podcast or whatever it says, a point of view, this woman's totally freaking out. It says you're starting to freak out because you have 17 Christmas gifts to buy with only $40 in your bank account, and the Netflix payment just came out. Right? That is most.
That's reality.
That's reality. Yeah, that is absolutely reality.
Well, it's reality for some. If you have that feeling of obligation that you have to buy gifts for everybody. I mean, 17 gifts to buy. I don't have 17 gifts to buy. We made a decision ourselves. My husband said, "What's on your list?" I said, "I really don't have anything on my list. I don't want a gift card. Yeah. And, if I can think of something, I will. But for our greater family, all my nieces and nephews, we did an exchange. We just picked one name. So my daughter picks a name and she buys and I pick a name. So for our family of however many we have, 13, we're only buying one gift instead of buying 13 individuals."
I love that. You know what? I think reinventing how you were talking about how to talk to yourself, how to, how to ask these different questions to rephrase the thing. Like so many people have had bad trauma holidays. And so they come at it and the dread starts early. We were talking about this way back in Trick or Treat Land in October, right? We were talking about how we just literally are so stressed out because it's building, right? It's building. I got to show you this too, because I found this news clip here. And, I think it says it all because it's not just us, it's everyone, right? And I have to remember that. It's not just because I'm in recovery or because people in recovery. This is everyone. Check out this news clip I found.
15 days away from both Christmas and Hanukkah. And while the holiday season can bring joy, it can also bring a lot of stress, right? According to a 2023 survey by the American Psychological Association, 89% of Americans are feeling stressed right now. So you're not alone. In fact, 41% had higher stress levels during the holiday season than any other time of the year. Some of the reasons, and you know them, it's not enough time, financial pressure, gift giving, and then unfortunately, family gatherings. Those can be stressful as well.
So, it's not just us. I mean, look at those numbers. Look at those. That's crazy.
89% of people.
Yeah, that's an epidemic of anxiety.
Huge. But I mean, when we're in an epidemic of anxiety in this country anyway, because we have so many expectations, so much pressure that we put on ourselves.
Yes.
How we've changed. You said, "Oh, Shauna, are you getting stressed?" And I didn't answer. And no, I'm actually not. And I've got a lot coming up. We're traveling as a family up to see my dad in Toronto, Canada. We got a 14-hour drive ahead of us because you know what? Flights were too expensive. So what are we going to do? We're going to drive. And, some ways we manage the stress here at home, or at least my stress, because I do a lot. We sat down as a family, my husband, daughter, and I said, what about decorating? Do we need to put up the tree? Do we need to get a tree? We're going to be gone for a certain amount of time. And we do have people staying in the house while we're gone. So we decided we wouldn't get a tree, but we'd take out some other decorations. So it's minimal, but it feels a little festive. You put up some twinkle lights and you automatically feel festive, right?
Exactly.
And so we address those kind of things. We don't have to decorate because it's the season. We decorate for what we enjoy. There's, I have this saying, according to who, right? Oh, we have to
Yeah.
go nuts and decorate our house for the holiday season. It has to be perfect. According to who? Who said we have to, right? We get to set what we want to do for ourselves, and then managing expectations as well. And we're going to get into the family thing. I'll talk a bit more about that when we talk about the family gatherings, because we have a big family gathering happening in Canada. And so there's some cute things about that. But I think for managing the stress, we have to really be honest with ourselves. And are we showing up as our authentic self and what's good for us and to maintain our peace?
Yes.
Or are we doing things because of the expectations of others and what we think they're going to think of us?
Well, yeah, wow, that's deep. Okay, this
Thank
made me
you.
think a little bit because I'll tell you, you were talking about decorations, and I shared
Right.
I shared on the lives that we were doing this week that I woke up beat because since we do decorations here, and I realized I was starting to get a decoration resentment. Like, I hate bringing out the tubs. And I was just physically, it was a lot this year for me. I don't know why. Maybe because I'm getting a little bit older. It's a lot, right? And we sometimes forget to enjoy what's going on. And I think this, especially people in recovery, because we're already heightened because 'tis the season for the work parties, for the problems with, dealing with coworkers and alcohol and all of that stuff that goes with it, plus the family drama. A lot of us come from families that are dysfunctional. So trying to navigate that and the expectations that you said, I have to remember that I also have to enjoy it. So like one of the things that I'm trying to do is I try to do something just for me, because a lot of the times when you have a family, the holidays are about giving to others. It's not really about you,
Right.
but now I try to carve one thing out for me
Yeah.
that I could do every year that's just for me.
That's beautiful. I'll have to add that in to mine. I'll think about it. But another way to get through the holidays is, we are busy. It says lack of time was one of those things, right? We feel pressed for time. And so we might cut out our regular things like exercise or prayer or meditation, or the things we do to keep us balanced year round, where in fact, we should be increasing the time we spend exercising or in prayer and meditation or going to recovery meetings. Increase that time so that we have what we need to meet others as ourselves and not be stressed out. If I cut out my meditation time in the morning, I would tend to be more stressed during the day because I don't have that pause or that calm feeling that I get when I recharge my mind and body through meditation and make that spiritual connection. So I see it as spend more time doing the things to care for yourself, and then you'll have more of yourself to give to others.
Absolutely. You know what? You do have to put your oxygen mask on first. One of the things that we've been talking a lot this week in Recovered Life is that if you can't stay sober, you're not going to be able to do the rest of things. So this whole thing about this expectation, I got that kind of early on. Like, it's great to show up for family, but if I can't stay sober, I'm not showing up for anybody, right? Like, so you got to take care of yourself first. I want to get into how we deal with this family drama when we come back from this break, because I have to tell you, this is the thing, Shauna, in my opinion, that absolutely freaks people out, and just people have the hardest time with it. So when we come back from this quick break,
I have some practical tips after.
I want to hear this because you're in the middle of it. Like, you're doing interventions with people who are like in the middle, right? And they have expectations. Like, we've always made the souffle every Christmas, like, it's just absolutely, when we think about it, we step back and look at it, it's like, it's kind of crazy behavior, but we're all somewhat enrolled in it. So when we come back, let's get into that. Let's jump into, like, what do you do with the holiday stress?
Okay.
How do you handle that? And how do you deal with people who, I've been having all these tech problems, guys. So I'm so sorry. How do you deal with people who,
or how do you even show up and manage yourself at family gatherings, right? And again, are you ready to roll it?
No, go ahead. Let's go ahead and talk. For some reason, there's a little issue with that. We'll roll it in a second.
Okay. So how again, listen to what we're saying. Oh, the family drama, anticipating the family drama. Well, if we anticipate, we're inviting that in, right?
Yes.
What if we just say, we're getting together as a family, everyone has their own unique personalities, bring their behaviors, maladaptive or whatever, and I'm going to show up and I'm going to have a great time, right? And how can I do that? And how can I manage when things do get out? Because people tend to imbibe more. And I'm not talking about alcoholics. I'm talking just generally. People do tend to imbibe more over the holidays, drink more, and it can get emotional. It can get, tempers can flare, arguments can ensue. And it can feel a little stressed, especially if people bring up topics like politics, religion, or anything. And so I have some practical tips that I've used through the years, not necessarily because I'm anticipating family drama, but how do I make the most out of the connections with the people that are there? Right? Like, I don't always see my nieces and nephews when they were away at college. We only saw them at Christmas. So I would, one thing I do is, if I am uncomfortable, and this was me when I was in early recovery or even in recovery, if I'm uncomfortable in my own skin at that moment, I will go and start cleaning up the kitchen, and I'll pull in one of my nieces or nephews and say, come on, let's start cleaning the kitchen. And I get to chat with them, spend time with them, and be of service, right? And I'm actually doing something. So I'm in my thinking mind. I'm not in my emotional mind, just sitting, listening to people, wondering how to contribute. Because a lot of people I don't have social anxiety, but a lot of people have social anxiety, and being in a crowd and wondering what to say, and you can start to bubble up. So I'll just, like I said, go into the kitchen, start cleaning. And I learned that from one of my aunts when I was a kid. She would always get up from the table, be one of the first people from the table or out of the room, and go in and start cleaning up the kitchen. She'd haul me in there and say, come on, Shauna, let's do it. And I would be sitting chatting with her, and I had no idea, reflecting on it. Maybe it was because the conversation was getting heated or whatever, but it was a time for the two of us to connect. So that's one of my tips. And then I have another one. I challenge myself to find out 2 unique things about every person there, or at least all of I give myself an assignment, right? So I set the expectation for myself that I need to find out 2 things from each niece and nephew about their life that I didn't know before. So I have to come up with questions. I have to listen. I have to ask the next question. And that gives me some focus. And again, staying in the thinking mind, out of the emotional mind, and not focusing on myself. And that really helps too.
How have you found that changes your experience? Because I think this is like, like what I love about Recovery This Week is we talk about like what really works for us in long-term sobriety, right? Like, was that something that you did all at once, or was that something that you built up to?
So I started to, so the cleaning the kitchen I've been doing for years, like, and pulling a niece or nephew aside. Again, I learned that when I was a kid from my auntie. So that one I've always had in my back pocket. And don't forget, I was in recovery for a long time before I was sober for a long time before I had that relapse, and then was back in early recovery. And so I had to, pull from my experience. The thing about asking the questions or creating the assignment for myself, I would say that happened over time. I really wanted to connect and not just say, oh, how's it going? Okay, what do you say? How are things? Good. How's school? Great. And the conversation's over, right?
Isn't that like most of the conversations?
Right. But what about, so tell me one of the, coming up with, thinking about things to ask before you go.
Yes.
Then you're not worrying about, well, what are they going to think of how I'm dressed or how I'm acting, or how you're not thinking about yourself, right? But I know that I have one of my nephews has started a new job. So I get to say, Tell me exactly what you do, say from 10 till noon on a daily basis. Are you talking to clients? What's that experience like for you? What have you found challenging? And really asking the next question. And so then I'm focused on engaging him and making that connection. And you said, what are the results from that? One, they're happier because they feel they're actually they have value, right? I'm asking about them. They're happier. I'm creating connection with them. I'm learning about them. And then oftentimes it's reflecting on what I've heard and then affirming them and saying, watching you do this, how you've grown into such a responsible young man who's really, this is a strong creative side from you. Or, the conversation flows. So I don't feel like I get stuck on conversation. So it's the anticipation of going, right? So I think of questions beforehand.
I love that. You're investing in the people and changing that emotional state of yourself. You know what? When we get back, I'm going to run this quick little thing. Quick little break. When we come back, and thank you guys for being so patient as we've expanded technologically here. When we come back, I want to dive into when it doesn't go well, when you've got family that's, dysfunctional and people maybe are actively relapsing and stuff like that. So we're going to dive into what to actually do and, what you've done with the people that you've worked with and our personal experience with that. We'll be right back after this quick break. Are you feeling the holiday pressure? It's no secret the holidays can be tough, but you don't have to go it alone. At Recovered Life, we've built a sober TikTok community where we come together to share our breakthroughs and breakdowns. Whether you're sober curious, just starting out, or decades into sobriety, you'll find people who get it. Find and follow us on TikTok. Just search Recovered Life. We post daily updates on our live schedule, so you'll always know when to join the conversation. This season, let's stay connected, stay inspired, and most importantly, live your best recovered life. Follow us now on TikTok at Recovered Life.
Merry Christmas!
Step out of the shadows into the light. Find your tomorrow, start the fight. Recovered Life TV, see the change. Living your best life is within reach. Visit recoveredlife.tv today.
You're listening to The Recovered Life Show, the show that helps people in recovery live their best recovered lives.
And we're back. I've got Shauna McKenna-Vick on the line where this is Recovery This Week, where we talk about what's going on with us. Look, we promised, Shauna, that before the break, we were going to talk about drama, like what happens when things don't go as planned. What happens if you've got total codependence in your life? What if you've got family that has unrealistic expectations? And quite honestly, family that's not going to change. They're not, we're not going to be able to change them.
No, generations, you have intergenerational patterns and themes that have happened in families. And, like you said, codependent or maladaptive or dysfunctional families and behaviors. I mean, that's just how it is. Now, as we get stronger in our recovery and we learn about boundaries, that makes a big difference, right? Like what I'm okay with, what I'm not okay with. Someone says something or sends a text and I say, you know what? Please don't use emotional blackmail with me. I'm not okay with that.
Ooh, you go hard.
Well,
you don't play.
When appropriate, okay. Right?
Wow, that's good. That's really good.
When appropriate. But if you're showing up and you know that Uncle John's there, he usually drinks too much and, gets a little crazy. There is nothing wrong with moving rooms, Damon, or going into the kitchen to clean. Why do you think I, stress that one? Or pulling someone aside for a one-on-one chat. Just the things we said before the break. But how about even going into the bathroom and praying, meditating, putting on a guided meditation for 4 minutes, calm yourself, doing some box breathing, using tools to calm yourself so that you don't have to react to what's going on.
I have done that. Okay, so I
Mm-hmm.
have done that. I think, we've been talking a lot on Recovered Life about these bumper strategies, like making
Guardrails,
sure,
setting up
like,
guardrails. Yeah.
bowling. It's like
Yeah,
the
the bumpers,
bowling
right?
with the bumpers, right? Because you
Yep.
don't want to be the one thing you don't want to be is just like off the rails. Because when you're dealing with people who already and what I found, I'm just like, let's get on it. I love how you just set the boundary really strong. I've not been great at that, like in my life sometimes, like, because a lot of times if you are in recovery, you're dealing with other people in your family that are probably codependent, alcoholics, stuff like that.
Oh,
So the
yeah, because it's a
expectation that
family
people
disease,
have,
the family systems. Yeah.
exactly. I got to show you this TikTok that I found because I think you'll totally like it. I think she breaks down
Okay.
exactly what's going on with a lot of families here. Let me show you this.
Something to remember this holiday season is that even though your parents are your parents or your other family members are adults, they may not be emotional adults. They may be operating from their own trauma and their own inner child woundings. And they may be showing up not as an adult, but as some younger part that got stuck somewhere in the past. And as we grow up, it's really important to remember that you can begin to just have compassion for them as people and be with them where they are, as opposed to needing them to be some version of mother, father, aunt, brother, whatever it is that you have set on them. Instead of expecting them to be a role that you have expectations, just be with them and notice what they're capable of. Because a lot of times our expectations or our needs are not met because people are not capable. They're just not capable. And so if you can move from just seeing them as a role into seeing them just as an imperfect person, you might have a lot easier time this holiday season.
Mm-hmm.
I just love that. I love that, looking at people as imperfect because we're imperfect, and looking at them as it is, as opposed to what you want to make it to be.
Right, and give them grace. We've talked about this. You probably think I say it ad nauseum. Give yourself some grace. Right, we're going to make mistakes and stuff. Give yourself some grace, but give other people the same grace. And now we had talked about expectations, Damon. Right, that we put these expectations on what it's going to be like or what people think of us. Well, we also have these expectations of other people, like she said in the video, that we want them to be the Norman Rockwell mother, father, sister, whatever, so we can take the picture and put it on Facebook and show everybody that we're in matching pajamas, when there are a lot of broken people in that photo, and may not be, when the picture taking stops, what's it really like? Well, let's not have expectations that they have to be a certain way, and just literally go with the flow. Like, let it happen. Be present, be where your feet are, engage with the people in the moment, and don't have the expectation. Because if we don't set high expectations and just accept what comes, we will be so much more peaceful. I'll give you an example. So we're going up to my dad's house, right? He's 87. And I've shared on here how I've gone up, taking care of him when he had his knee surgery and whatever. And my brother's coming with his adult children, his wife, and my family. And my dad says to me yesterday on the phone, he says, well, what about groceries? My dad uses a walker or canes because of his knees, right? I said, Dad, it's all right. I've got the Instacart thing. I'll order some groceries. And he says, I said, Dad, we're all adults. We're all adults.
Yeah.
Figure out the food. Don't worry. You don't have to take care of us. And he said, oh, well, I said, it's going to feel like you have to take care of us. Like we're all coming home from college, for the break, and you want to make sure we've got a good steak dinner and stuff. I said, but let us take care of you, right? Like, let's just go with the flow. But that's speaking to what she said, the intergenerational patterns, because of the act of us going all home for Christmas. he is back in father. All of my little chickadees are coming back to the nest to roost. And I said, Dad, we're going to take care of it. It's all going to be good. You know, when he comes down to our house, we seem to take care of Christmas very well. You know, like it's amazing that we can live our lives and be so well, but he forgets that he still sees us. I'm 57 years old. He still sees me as a little girl.
Yes.
And you know, yeah. And I had my sister up in Canada said, hey, do you want me to bring down a bunch of winter clothes? Ask everybody what they need. And I said, you know what? They're adults. They'll figure out. They know we're going to Canada. They've got to figure out their house. I don't have the bandwidth to go and ask people and anticipate the needs of everybody. No.
Well, overdoing it.
Overdoing it. Yeah.
Okay. And I am guilty of this. Overdoing it causes a lot of misery because it's like, it's never enough. You know, we talked about the financial thing before, but it's not just that. It's just it's the constant, like, you know, and this is a lot with codependency too, which is an addiction in my opinion. You know, codependency is like trying to make yourself okay by others, right? By basically manipulating others, trying to change your emotional state by doing that. Same with alcoholics. Like we try to change our emotional state by drinking. They do the same thing. So the fact that one of the things I got, Shauna, very early on in recovery, like first 3 years, is that people are not going to change necessarily. Like they might, but I have really zero effect on what people are going to do.
Yeah, none, zero effect, right? Like we can't go and demand, oh, well, it has to be this way or has to be this way or alcohol free, or we can ask, Damon.
Yeah.
But people are allowed to say no and say, no, that's not how we're doing it in this family, or we're uncomfortable with that. But we get to say we're uncomfortable. The other thing, let's get back to people in early recovery. You said that you've been on some TikTok lives with people who are actually getting sober now before the holidays. Like, more power to you. You'll have a more peaceful holiday, but you have to set yourself up for success as well, which means, and I'm going to say it, giving yourself the grace to say no to events that you don't feel comfortable going to. And oftentimes we will feel obligated to go somewhere, Damon, because we're afraid of what others will think. I can't believe they're not coming.
And you know, a lot of people have a hard time with that in the office setting as well. You know, they don't understand that you can bumper your time. You can go in, have a hard in and an out, that people aren't going to remember you. And I think this is a recovery thing where, you know, we talk about the bondage of self a lot. We talk about being right, the bondage of self. And the reality is people aren't thinking about us 24/7, 365. You know what I mean? They're not.
Even when you're at a family gathering and you choose to leave early because you're uncomfortable or you're tired, or for whatever reason, you know, it's time to leave. And we think the whole way home, my God, they're going to be mad at me for leaving early, and they're going to think I'm rude and whatever. Well, just what you said, they are actually not thinking of us at all. They have continued on to enjoy themselves, what they're doing. They're not thinking of us, but we are so obsessed with self that we think everyone else is thinking about us when they're not. And and guess what? Even if they are, it doesn't matter, because if we have self-protection going on and we want to stay sober and we're doing this, then we are the ones who are, you know, it's okay. Even if someone thinks we're doing the wrong thing, it doesn't matter. If we're showing up as authentic and being true to ourselves and to our recovery, then we know we're not intentionally harming anyone. Then we know we're okay. I mean, I've got good, strong recovery, and we have an event this weekend. It's our regular once a year Christmas thing that we've been doing with the same group of people. And I know that if I feel like it's time to go, that I can say, thank you for the lovely evening, and we're going to head out. And my husband and all I do is look over at him and I give him the nod, and he knows that
He knows.
I'm done. Right.
And we have that Christmas thing too.
Yeah.
And I always say, like, I don't really, my life and the people around me, I'm not around really heavy drinkers, like not a lot.
Mhm.
But the only alcohol issue I typically have is that people know that I'm sober and they have a friend that they're trying to get
and
sober.
they want you to, and they
Bob's
want
an
you to talk
alcoholic.
to them. Yeah.
Yeah, like there's that thing which if you stay sober long enough, guys, you will definitely you will definitely deal with in
Mhm.
recovery. This has been great. There's been so many takeaways here. I love in short, I got to ask you at the end though, because I think this is very, very important. And I know a lot of people join us on TikTok and on YouTube and stuff, and we're actually going live when we record this now. But there are times when you're, especially in early recovery, where maybe you just can't go. And I know there is this, it's very, very tough, especially if you come from a family of, maybe there's the boundaries are weird. There's a lot of expectations. There's been a lot of people who are like, man, should I go? Should I not go? You being an interventionist, I want your take on this, because I tend not to, Shauna. Like, I'm like, okay, you got to really think about this. If you think that your physical sobriety, you're not going to make it, like I said before, if you don't stay sober, you're not going to be able to do anything else.
Right.
When do you know, as an intervention, because you're dealing with people in early sobriety all the time, when do you know, Shauna, when it's like, this just isn't safe for me to do this?
So I think it's an individual thing. I think if there's a question in your mind about going, really, really dig deep into that. Like this family gathering or this gathering of individuals, it's who I used to drink with. I don't know if I'll feel comfortable going. You don't need to go. I think as an interventionist, I don't tell people what to do, right? Like I invite them to really look at what's going on with them. I can make suggestions for sure, but I can't tell people what to do. If there's hesitation or there is a concern or what you said, any risk to your physical sobriety, whether it be emotional, the fact being around alcohol because you haven't been around alcohol, there's no reason you can't say, thank you for the kind invitation. I won't be able to make it this year.
You know
and
where?
Guess
you know
what?
where the
That's a
turmoil is
long
for
enough
me?
answer. Sorry, go ahead.
Sure. And by the way, I don't want to say that again, because I think this is very important for people to hear.
Say thank you for the kind invitation. I won't be able to make it this year. Period.
Perfect.
Stop.
I love
That's
it. I love it.
You don't have to say because I'm in early sobriety.
Correct.
Da, da, da. You're just declining the kind invitation.
You know where I draw the line? I'll tell
Where?
you the one thing where I can put up with a lot, but if it passes this line, and I've told people this that I've worked with in recovery, either coach them or do a 12-step thing, where if you're going to go to the event and they're going to actively try and get you to drink or encourage you to drink and really kind of goat you on, that for me is the absolute hard demarcation line. That is the border. You never go to something like that, especially with family, because they have an emotional, they know where all of the emotional chords are, right? They can push all those buttons and pull all those levers, and that is not a place to be. So if there's no one in there that's for you staying sober and it gets it somewhat, just somewhat, it could even be a grandma that says, I support that. You know what I mean? I say no go. I say don't do it. It's not worth it.
No, it's not worth it. And it comes from the strangest places. I just had a client leave her 30-day treatment stay to go on to sober living. And her dad picked her up, and she had turned 21 while she was in treatment. And he said, do you want to get a bottle of champagne to celebrate your 21st birthday?
Right. I see. I hear
Your
that.
daughter was just in rehab.
Yes.
She was in for, a ketamine addiction, but I was so taken aback by that. Like that would be unsafe. Someone like that would be unsafe to be around in early recovery.
Yep. And you know what? And you have to ask yourself in those situations, because I've been in a couple of those situations with friends. You have to ask yourself, does this and I mean, I went back, Shauna, and I said, okay, I need to look at this. Like, I need to really think about this a little bit. Does this person just not know? Do they just not know? They just really are
That's
not
possible. Yeah.
educated, right? Which I think is a lot of it. Which is, I think that people don't understand. It's like, no, you can't. That's not a good idea. Or are these people really not on Team Damon? If they really don't want to see me succeed, right? And sometimes, unfortunately, I've had to make the decision sometimes to walk away because they're not on Team Damon. They're not, and I don't need people to tell me what I want to hear all the time. But this is clearly, if you loved me, you would not be encouraging me to drink.
No.
I don't need you in my life.
No.
You know what I mean? I don't need you in my life.
Because usually it's more about them, that they can't not drink.
That
They
is
can't
what it's
fathom
about most of the time.
themselves. It's about them. And so it's okay for you to set that boundary and to move away from that relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what?
We have to protect our recovery at all costs. It
Yes.
is not easy. You
No.
ask anyone who's trying to
No.
get sober or who's gotten sober and is in early recovery, they will say it's not easy. And it does get easier. I want to encourage y'all as you learn. Like Damon said, did you just come up with all those tips all at once? Or no, it's growth. It's figuring it out. You know, it's learning things. It's listening to podcasts. It's working with a coach. It's working with a therapist. It's taking care of your own self. And as you grow, you come up with ways to manage things. But it's not easy in early recovery.
It's not. And you know what? And the fact of the matter is that you're doing it. You have the awareness now. There is no guarantee that if you go out in the holidays that you're going to ever have that awareness that you want to come back again. We throw this out as if, well, you're going to have this moment of clarity always. Not necessarily, I've found. I know a lot of people who didn't have a moment of clarity again, right? They just kept going. They just kept going. So we want everybody to be safe and happy in the holidays. I think we're going to have, are we going to have one more before actually Christmas?
I can do it next week.
Okay, great.
You can do it next week. Yeah, sure. That'd be great.
Yeah, we're going to do that.
Open,
We're going to carry on this conversation on TikTok as well. We've been having this great thing. And like you guys probably saw the ad here in this episode, join us, follow us at Recovered Life, just Recovered Life, put it in there. We're going live twice a day supporting people. It's been so great in the community there. People have been getting sober. People are going to detox. People are trying it again that have relapsed and doing it in a different, more productive way. So we invite you to join us. I might even drag Shauna McKenna-Vick over and make her give us some tips during the holiday season.
Oh, for sure. And if you are thinking about getting sober, I want to say this. You don't have to wait till January. You don't have to wait until after the holidays. Go ahead and get into detox. If you're going to treatment, go to treatment. Missing one family holiday is not as important as you getting sober. It is no big deal to miss one Christmas.
Absolutely. Guys, we want you to go out and live your best recovered life. If you have any questions, you can drop them in the chat at any time here. Follow us on the podcast. Go to recoveredlife.tv and please like and share. There might be something in here that maybe you know everything that we're talking about. You're like, yep. You've checked all the lists, but maybe you have a friend or a loved one who really needs to hear that. Next week, Shauna, I want to also get into how family can support people, because we have a lot of people who are not in addiction recovery, but they have loved ones and they want to start changing the dynamic of their holiday functions, but they don't know how. So we're going to get into that a little bit next week. So stay with us, guys. Final thought, Shauna.
I just wish everybody, an happy and exciting, to be excited about the holidays. Reframe that thought of I'm so stressed, I have no time. Make time for yourself and everything else will follow. And just take good care of yourself. Make sure you're going to meetings, praying, meditating, whatever it is that you do, yoga, workout, keep those things to keep yourself mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually well. And you will be able to show up with grace and peace through the holidays.
You absolutely will. Guys, go out and live your best recovered life. We will see you with Recovered this week. Recovery This Week. We'll see you next week at the same time. Bye.
Hey, if you like this episode, think about supporting us by becoming a Recovered Life Plus member. At Recovered Life TV, we're not just delivering premium recovery resources, we're empowering you with the knowledge and tools that make a real difference in the quality of your recovery. By subscribing, you gain access to ad-free content, expert insights, exclusive video and audio segments, special projects, plus so much more, all while supporting our mission to spread the recovery message far and wide. Whether you're seeking to deepen your understanding or stay updated on the latest addiction and mental health recovery trends, Recovered Life Plus is for you. Subscribe now and start living your best recovered life. Just go to recoveredlife.tv and become a Plus member today.